Do you see now the difference in our power?
Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today we're going to talk about players getting robbed by who you ask, tournament organizers, and them not doing what they need to in order to protect competitive integrity. I've been doing YouTube for quite some time now. Time flies by and one video turns into thousands. One day turns into 1,000 days. All of a sudden you've been sitting here for 6 years, right? 7 years, 8 years, I don't know exactly. But throughout all that time, there's one thing that kind of been a consistent complaint from the players. Of course, balance, of course, characters, of course, metas, of course, mechanics. Across multiple different games, you hear people nitpicking one individual thing about the game and taking it to the developers to be balanced. It may be balanced, it may not be balanced, but that's kind of what pro players do. But another complaint, which is outside the game, which is outside of their control, is tournaments. Rules are rules. Rules cannot be broken. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're bent, sometimes when it happens, it creates controversy across Twitter. Sometimes players are blaming rules and characters and balancing for their own shortcomings. But you hear these certain complaints last for years. And you have to just stop and think is there truth to this? From multiple different players, from multiple different games, you see the same complaints. And at that point in time, it's like, something actually should be done. This is kind of the point where we're at right now with this whole monitor lagging situation. Now, I know as casual players, we will play on anything. We will play on TVs, we will play on Steam Decks, we will play on old PC monitors, right? But when you're talking about pro level players who are training for, to fight other pro players, the best of the best, you talk about what's happening right now. It's EWC. This is a tournament circuit that you have to win other tournaments to qualify for. This is the best of the best doing what no other player could. They are trying everything to win because the money there is like no other. The winner of these tournaments will walk away with about 200,000. Second place will walk away with 100,000. This is big money on the line, and they are practicing like crazy at this very second to do what no one else can. Only one person can win. Only one person can make history. There's only one EWC per year. And for some games like Tekken 8, we don't even know if they'll be evolved next year. So the stakes are high and players are trying to give it their all. So when they look at the websites and they see what type of conditions they're going to be playing under, where is the tournament located? Okay, Paris, let me try to adjust my sleep schedule there. Let me try to accumulate crowdfund money to make the travel, to feed myself while I'm there, to, prepare myself mentally for the journey. Let's see what type of monitors we're going to be playing on. Let's see what platform we're going to be playing on. All of these things are taken into consideration by these pro players so that they could do what they can to be prepared. Traveling to these tournaments and competing is no small thing. People sacrifice so much to get there. And all that they ask is that the tournament organizers and the people who host and run the event meet them halfway. Give just as much effort as the players to make sure that it is fair, competitive, and also entertaining. But the tournament organizers of all of these tournaments have not been holding up their end of the bargain. For years, we've been seeing players complain about the monitors and how laggy they are. And as someone who's just a casual viewer, a casual enjoyer, moonsault yapper, even I'm sick of it. When I see Punk take to Twitter and he's blaming the monitors for the reason that he's lost, I understand people will immediately jump on him and say, no, that's not right. You lost because you suck. You lost because of this. You lost because of that. And then the same thing Arslan does. And then another player does. Sonic Fox does. You hear all these pro players take their, turn going to Twitter and complaining about the monitors. It's always the monitors. Like I said just a second ago, at what point in time do the tournament organizers do something about it? I understand they have contracts with PlayStation, contracts with this company, contracts with that company, chair companies, monitor companies. I understand they have all of these contracts and all these partnerships and agreements, but does that take priority over the players who are participating in the tournament itself? Is your business agreements more important than the competitive integrity that allowed for those business agreements to be made. I'll read the tweet from Punk. It says, Tokita and Tahara played great, but it's no way we should use monitors that's not in zone on PS5. It's always perfect with it, but anytime it gets switched to a different monitor, it's just never good in my experience. But I don't understand why Capcom, Bandai Namco, Sega, all of these games don't make it mandatory to use the pinnacle, the best. For smaller tournaments like locals and whatnot, you may not have to do all of that. But for big dog tournaments, Combo Breaker, Evo, EWC is kind of like its own tournament circuit, but it still is interconnected. So you think that there would be some wiggle room there. There will be some agreements there. There will be some rules and guidelines established. And them not providing the best monitors, and you have pro players getting robbed broad daylight for everyone to see, it's unacceptable at this point. I remember seeing these same exact complaints before the pandemic, and we're still here talking about it. And I don't know when or I don't know how we get these tournament organizers to stop with the foolishness, but it's time, bro. I do want to highlight some more of these tweets though. Someone responded to Punk and says, I studied your games and you play different than you usually do online. You rarely hooligan and even more rarely spin knuckle in neutral. You just did DI without trying to react first, or just did level 2. Maybe it is the monitor got you not uncomfortable in reacting, but still GG's. Punk says in response, when you cannot react to anything and moving in quicksand, my playstyle doesn't work in lag. Not one bit. I'm one of the only players who tries to win with only reactions. So if you take it away with lag, I don't have backup playstyle. Now to show you that he's not just yapping, here's another player who says, player 2 side was definitely laggier than player 1 side though. Until I asked them to change it before my match with Sarah, Punk the God didn't deserve that on his birthday. We have one player here who looked at the raw data of the player 1 side and the player 2 side, and you can see that there is a real advantage on player 1 side because of the laggy monitors or the laggy experience that's had on player 2. A total of 152 sets happened on stream. 83 sets, which is 54.6%, was won by player 1, and then 69 sets, which is 45.4%, was won on player 2 side. With hard data like this, something definitely needs to be done. It's unacceptable. You even have other pro players from different games like Tekken 8, they're next up at EWC. You have Arslan who jumps in this conversation. He says, we spent months preparing for moments like this. Adapting to new environments is part of the competition, but equipment issues shouldn't be. Hopefully everything is fixed before Tekken tournament starts. Competitive integrity should always come first. And this is why I spent time talking about their partnerships and their agreements, because we know that's what they have, right? We know that, the chairs that you're sitting on at the Evo stage, the company paid for those chairs to be used, and all of this stuff. We get it. But if a company can't provide the top-notch quality product, then why would you even do business with them? Fighting games are so tedious because they require such specific knowledge and skill set. In these fighting games, you have multi-mix-ups, basically multiple different options that could come at you, and some of those options require you to block, react quickly by crouching, jumping, power crushing, rage arting, super, EX, a lot of different counterplay is involved. But if you put a small bit of lag in there, it's impossible to do. This is what's the major difference between online and offline. Offline, so many things become reactable. Like, for example, Tekken, the character that I play, Yoshimitsu, he has the unblockable low, which it's definitively reactable, even online. But if you put a little bit of lag in there, all of a sudden you're getting hit before you even see the guy crouch. There's multiple different things like that on a smaller scale and some equal scale, and lag is the key part of it. People should not be offline at multi-million-dollar tournaments dealing with lag. I want to read this final post from Punk. I'm going to tweet this because it sucks. Waking up feeling terrible, knowing I can't show my skill or any of my practice in head-to-head tournaments. Because of some reason, since Street Fighter V TOs can't figure out how to stop making one side laggy and the other side perfect. This isn't something any other game has to deal with, and it sucks because Japan will never tweet or say anything about the lag online, but will complain about it to IRL players when in reality, they are the only people Capcom truly cares about and will listen to. I just want everything to be perfect for us like every other esports gets treated. But sadly, until Japanese players start speaking up, nothing is ever going to change for us, sadly. I love Street Fighter and I wanted to keep competing, but it's no way I could keep traveling 8 hours plus for these conditions when I could just stay home and stream and make just as much money. When you talk about Street Fighter specifically, it's no secret that the majority of their player base comes from Japan. This is why when you look online, you see equal levels of complaints for Tekken 8 and Street Fighter 6, but Street Fighter 6 is able to ignore all of those complaints about balance and characters and throw loops and drive rush and all of that stuff. They can ignore it because they have a massive Japanese audience who just kind of takes it. They just take whatever they're given. They don't really complain. It's not really their culture. You know, it's not really their culture to speak out, crash out on Twitter, crash out on streams. They are more so private about their complaints. But in this environment, with the things that's happening currently, that's not going to get us to change. We're lucky with games like Tekken and Mortal Kombat, their player base is more equal and spread out throughout the world. But Street Fighter 6, if their Japanese audience doesn't speak, Capcom doesn't move. Going back a couple of months ago, Capcom decided to make their finals like pay-per-view. The whole entire world was upset, except for Japan. And that allowed Capcom to say, we don't care, we're still doing it. And it was a major success in Japan. And this is kind of an equal thing where I understand a lot of these guys don't want to be crashing out on Twitter and they don't want to be doing this or that. But if you really want the game to change, you have no other way. The developers literally will not change things. The tournament organizers will literally not change things. A lot of the developers, they want the feedback. They want the criticism. They want you to tell them the truth. But until you do, we will continuously see players getting robbed at tournaments. We'll continuously see balancing of the game fall off the rocker. And more people will just quit. It's way more profitable to just stay home and be a streamer, a reactor, and post gameplay than it is to travel around the world and get robbed in tournaments, whether it be by laggy monitors, bad setups, or bad balanced games.